Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 643, recorded live on Saturday, July 3rd. I'm your host, Patrick. Joining me this week is Arkat.
Morning, everybody.
Welcome back. Happy 4th of July, a day early.
There's no such holiday as the 4th of July. It's called Independence Day. So you should say
Sure.
Happy Independence Day.
Yes, that. This year, without aliens destroying the White House or any such things. But as we were talking about before the show, for you, Buffalo Burgers, of which also before the show I was a little jealous of. So, have a happy Independence Day tomorrow. Please be safe if you're using fireworks. I know there's
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one, fireworks are just can be dangerous anyways, but also a lot of areas like where I'm at is very dry right now. If you remember last week, I was living in Avernus. This week, it's considerably cooler today. Like, seriously, it's 30 degrees
I was
cooler.
wondering how many? 30?
Yeah, it's like between when
Wow.
I recorded this when we were doing the show last week and right now, it's 30 degrees cooler. Maybe 25.
So you're like
But
at 80 now instead of 110. Wow.
no, I mean it's like 70 right now. So much more
Okay.
comfortable for this native Pacific Northwester. But there's a lot of fire danger right now, so we're going way off topic. There was a town up in just north of the border of me that like they hit 121 and the town's burning down or burned down. Because it was hot and dry, so yeehaw. So please be safe. Anyways, back to DDO. This week's screenshot, Freya takes a moment to rest in the 516th screenshot of the week. Thanks, Feta, for sending in this week's screenshot. I was going to check something, because it's the distinctive... Are those the Ravenloft shrines?
You know,
You don't look at
I
them as
was
much
looking at
anymore,
it,
right?
PJ, and I couldn't figure it out
Yeah.
where that is.
It's got the distinctive not normal shrine, right? Not base shrine, but...
Right.
So we should be able to figure this out, but I mean, you look at the shrines for the first week that you play the new content, and after that, it's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
whatever. Um,
It's just there in the background. You don't pay attention to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Someone's gonna write in and comment and tell us exactly where this is, which is great. We like to talk about Dungeons and Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend, and you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, the recorded, published version, we'll have the second half of our review of Update 49, which we started 3 weeks ago, I think. Sounds about right. And then, of course, we had a flurry of things to talk about on Lamania between Epic Destinies and Update 50. So we've been doing the last couple weeks, but we'll get back to that on the back half of the show. However, for now, we're going to talk about game news. So there's not a whole lot to talk about this week. I guess the last 2 weeks were pretty pretty full of things to talk about.
Very newsy, that's for sure.
Yeah, very newsy indeed. But this week, not so much. They're kind of, processing the information that they're giving. I think also with Independence Day on Sunday here in the U.S., that usually means that either Monday or Friday people observe it. Although my experience of so far this week has been that people are observing it on both. Seems like everyone I know is not working Friday or Monday. So,
Well, where I work, it's observed on Monday, but we also normally we take 2 days off for Independence Day, so we have the observed holiday, which if it's during the week,
right.
well, as this weekend we're having it on, Monday, but But on the 3rd of July is what's called Treaty Day. Because in case people don't know, I work for an Indian tribe in Oklahoma, rather in Wyoming, and so Treaty Day is on the 3rd. So we observed that on Friday. So
Oh, there you go.
we get the 4-day weekend too.
I just know that the school district that I work for, basically everyone was off Friday and Monday, which was relevant because I am not a plumber and one of the bathrooms needed a plumber. So, uh,
Did you get roped into trying to do something about it, or?
um, I tried and failed. The
Okay.
good news is the water isn't running. It's just, if you flush, then water comes out of the wall where the toilet meets the wall. Um, so, but not so.
Sounds like
It's
that needs a
yes,
professional touch there.
an actual plumber.
Yes.
But not in a way that was like we had to bring someone out on a holiday for overtime and holiday pay at the same time. So
Right.
Anyways, game news. That's where we were. This is gonna happen a lot today, isn't it? Uh, there was a comment that I wanted to pull out from the devs. I don't remember who said this. I think it was Linabelle.
This is Linnabelle. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a comment about quote old epics. And Linabelle said that when we say, quote, old epics, we mean content that was introduced and statted before Epic split into Epic Hard, Elite, etc. These monsters are artificially propped up at those difficulties using a set of scaling formulas that modifies their base stats. Newer content simply has a new monster variant per difficulty, so they can actually modify difficulty on a per monster basis. With Update 51, they want to remove a lot of the monster power in those low epic dungeons to remove a chunk of the barrier to entry into epics, which on their end means we want to make hard elite versions of those monsters and pull them out off of the global scaling system. Which sounds great. Seems like a good plan, right? But so to be kind of even more clear, old epics then would be Sands of Manectrin, Vault of Night, um, Web of Chaos. I think Web of Chaos.
How about out in Meridia, in the Vale? How about those quests out there?
They don't
Those
have
old epics?
they don't have epic versions.
Oh, you're right. Holy cow.
I mean, it'd be cool if they did, but they don't.
Okay. All right.
The Carnival, Fairland Carnival,
Carnival, yeah,
Sentinels of
and
Storm Reach.
House P, yeah.
Uh, I mean, basically the scroll seal shard ones, right? Like if it's got a scroll
Right.
seal and shard system,
Sure.
that's kind of what we're talking about.
Gotcha.
It's I find it a little interesting they're talking about that being a barrier to entry because I don't think
I
of
was
them as
just gonna
being too
I was
difficult.
just gonna say the exact same thing. Is there really a barrier to entry for those? I mean, I don't particularly remember them as being particularly difficult. Even if you were like level 20, 21.
I think they're easier than Borderlands. It
Okay.
feels like things hit less hard in than in Borderlands, but that may not be true. That when I do Borderlands on Epic, I tend to do them kind of on like R3 or 4
Mm,
because they're so
okay.
short.
Right.
Uh, Whereas when I'm doing like Vons, I pretty much only ever do them on R1 just to blitz through them. For inconsistent reasons. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I can definitely see it from a standpoint of like, hey, let's make this simpler and just not use this. Like, just have monsters built the same way in all the dungeons so that they're all using the same stuff and things. But
Makes more sense to me. I think
yeah,
that's the real reason why they're doing it, not to remove a barrier to entry.
yeah. And as Fire is pointing out in our chat that we're also uh, player power is also being reduced, so that will become potentially more relevant as well. So. Let's see. Hardcore season 4. Hardcore season 4 is over. And the after party is up. The after party will be available through July 20th. So if make sure you transfer all of your stuff off of hardcore that you want to keep. Otherwise, it will disappear into the ether. And they will be getting the leaderboards up in the near future. They are available to view online, but they're not in the game yet, which will probably have to wait for a patch. Although I will say that I do really like how they kind of slot them into the game behind the hardcore vendor with like the little tablets. Kind of like those.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't really looked at it, so.
If you go where the hardcore vendor is, behind him you'll see these like little
Sure.
tombstone-y looking shiny things.
Right.
I'm
One
curious
of the things.
I'm curious how long until like what are they gonna do like when it has to like wrap around the wall or something like it gets too long, but
I think I think that in the Hall of Heroes there's plenty of room in there for
yeah.
all that sort of stuff. It might not be right behind the hardcore vendor. It might have to, wrap around and go up and down the stairs and all that stuff. But there's plenty of room to put all that stuff there.
Might have to move the hardcore vendor to his own little spot.
There you go, like the
Give him
hardcore
like a
room or something.
yeah, give him like this really big big I don't know if a room, but definitely a corner of a Hall of Heroes, if
Sure,
you will.
sure.
Keep in mind that there's that like whole section off to the side that's like no longer in use,
Nothing.
right? Where there
Yeah.
used to be all the stuff that's in the Gatekeeper's Grove now.
Hmm.
But I think hardcore is here to stay, and I think people spend plenty of money on hardcore to justify its existence and to pay for all the rest of us to enjoy the game on the live
They
server.
they must because I some of the achievements that I saw, like Dom with his getting Reaper wings, and he's number one in or tied for number one for was it favor?
Yeah,
So he I mean, I can't imagine how much time, and he had to have spent something in the DDO store there. I mean, I just would find it hard to believe that anybody could do what he did without at least spending some money there in the DDO store on
I'm
hardcore.
assuming that he bought XP potions and Hearts of
There you
Wood
go.
at the very least.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but I did hear a rumor of someone who uh died a lot and was buying tomes for his new tunes or their new tunes a lot. So, um,
Wow.
yeah. Hey, however you want to spend your money to have fun, you know, within
I just
reason.
hope what he spent was actually real disposable income. I mean,
Yes, that's a fair point. Yes. Uh, that's pretty much all the official game news we have. Bonus days. This is kind of exciting and different. Spooky Summer. The Spooky Summer live event has arrived. So through July 11th. So bonus days for this week and through all of next week. I don't know if this means that we will or won't get new bonuses next week or not. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Although my guess, based on I'm working on setting up an Ask the Devs for the Epic endgame changes. But it sounds like there's a significant amount of or maybe not so, but people are taking vacation this weekend and the longer weekends this weekend with the holiday, like we already discussed, and Jerry is going to be out for a while, so this may be all we get for the next this next week, just because they may just let it be and let people be on vacation and not have to deal with it. So, anyways, this is through July 11th. The Night Revels is out, so if you'd like to go do Night Revels in the summer, which I think this is the first time not in the fall that it's been up, which is kind
sounds
of
right
fun.
to me.
The Night Revel dungeons have plus 200% rewards. I'm assuming that just means ingredients, not the
Yeah.
XP.
Yeah, I think that's what that means.
Because
Boy, that would be awesome, wouldn't it?
doubling the XP would be absurdly amazing. That would be like 250 to 300,000 XP per dungeon.
Yeah, so it says plus 200% rewards. Isn't that actually tripling the rewards?
Probably. I'm being told in the chat that it's not 2 times XP, which I'm not surprised by.
So it's three times XP.
No,
You
it's
said not XP. Right,
right.
right, right.
I think you're right. Right, like it would be you get an extra 200% reward, so you get 3 times as many bits and bobs.
Right.
Yep. Uh, we will point out that these ingredients will deprecate, and the candies and stuff like the things that say that they're gonna go away will still go away the next time Revels comes. In theory, I think there was one year that didn't happen, but in theory that's gonna happen. Uh,
And they'll disappear before the next Night Rebels actually starts, so not after it goes
yeah,
away.
something like it's like mileage may vary. I think like it depends on when they put the patch in. I, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think Steel Star made a post.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, and Steel Star made out like a one sentence response to that.
The stuff that says it's going to disappear at the end of 2019, you should expect to disappear near the end of this year, and maybe they'll change the date for the new stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they get
Um,
around to it, or if they remember.
but if you don't have the hats with the dodge clicky or the cloak/docent with the spell critical damage clicky, this would be a good time to go get that. Or if you're looking for the cosmetics, great time to do that too. Right, you're getting a lot more ingredients. Um, I think it was. Oh, I'm gonna get this wrong. I think it takes like 3 runs of the spectral dragon usually to get a cloak, but this you could do it all in one.
Sure,
So,
absolutely. And they augments the
hmm
rubies of the Vampire Slayer are really nice. You can bypass silver, DR, and do it some extra a little bit of light damage, D4 or D6 extra light damage. Very nice augment.
yeah. And hey, the +2 stat augments too, right?
Oh, sure,
Those are in there.
absolutely.
See, also with the spooky summer event, +10% Reaper XP boost. So you can get a little extra Reaper XP. Also, Devilish Monster Champions. Hey, this is fun. So I don't know how much you've been playing the last couple days, but these are the champions from Hardcore Season 2. So it's a different suite of champions. I've talked about many times where I've wanted these. We've got these other extras. We have 4 suites of champions now. Let's put the other ones on live occasionally, at least a little bit, which they're doing here, which is great. And then they're soliciting some feedback a little bit. And I think I just kind of glanced through. I would say that what I saw would be maybe somewhere between 2 and 3 pot. Yes, this is awesome versus 1. I don't like this, but in general, the I don't like this was less tended to be less about I don't like this suite of champions and more I still don't like champions. So I think in general this has been fairly positively received.
Sure.
I like it just because it I don't know, it's a little new, right? Like it's shakes things up not like
Huh?
massively so, but
Yeah, I'm fairly indifferent, but if they're going to have them, then it's probably better to have some more variance
mhm.
in the game. So it's fine with me.
I think it's like, you drive your own car for a long time, right? And you're really used to your car, and then you go travel somewhere and you get a rental car and you get in. It's like, oh, this is nice. It's got a little more bells and whistles than I'm used to. Like little change for a couple days. You
Sure.
go back, and then you're driving your nice, comfortable car again, right? Um, and there's not any champions in here that I think you'd like be super scared of. Um,
No.
if the season 4 champions come around, I think there might be some more weeping and gnashing of teeth, but not with these ones. There's also double mysterious remnants, so twice the chance for remnants. And then they put a note at the end of it that they will expire both last year's or October 2020 and this summer's ingredients prior to the start of Night Revels event this fall.
See, I told you.
Yeah, which is a little curious to me. Like, does this mean that they're like 2 separate sets of ingredients? Like, you can't mix and match them? I kind of assumed that they would be the same.
That's what I'm thinking.
Um, so anyway, that's what's going on there. Store news: this is your final weekend for double bonus points. You get twice the bonus points in the DDO store through July 5th. Honor Your Guild is the sale, so 20% off of Astral Shards, Guild Renown Elixirs, and 50% off of Guild Charters and Guild Airship Beacons. And the coupon code, a free lasting night Revel's key with the coupon code Spooky Summer. I'm pretty sure those ones don't deprecate. The lasting ones, right?
You would think they wouldn't, because I guess you get them from the store, right? And this is just a coupon for a free one from the
Yeah.
store.
I tend to end up using them anyways, but so even if you're not planning on doing Night Revels now, you should get that free one.
Absolutely.
Because you should be able to use it when the next one comes, and maybe there's some new things to get. Maybe a new color armor, for example. So, all right, that'll take us to community news. The 432nd Chronicle. Congratulations, the community spotlights. Congratulations to everyone who made the list. Season 4 of Hardcore Server is over, and the after party is running through July 20th. We mentioned that. We also got a shout out for our show last week with Asheris. We were looking at update 50, the preview that was on the Mania there. The guild for the week, Guild Hall, Knights of Chaos are a Kyber-based guild that has been around since their formation on Retron. Guild is looking for multiple new members to join them. I haven't, I don't think I've seen Knights of Chaos in a while.
Been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that they're still around. I actually was on Redra before we got pushed to Kyber, so I've been playing on and off with them for a long while. So it's nice to see that they're still around. Comment: you look up. What do you see? The ceiling?
I see a big giant house with a ton of multicolored balloons attached to it, floating away.
Decent movie.
There you go.
Fan site news: DDO stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch.
What do you see?
I said the ceiling.
The ceiling. Okay.
The white, boring ceiling with light on it to light my face for a podcast. Although if I go outside, I'll see this strange glowing orb in the sky that is
right.
not often seen in Seattle.
Surrounded by a lot of blue stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of clouds right now, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a little early. Usually we say summer starts July 5th here, right? So, not this year. Oh boy. Let's see. DDO stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch. This week, Bard Live celebrates summertime. Vooduspyce has coffee and chat, and Fridays on Ice, quests in Evening Star. Over on Twitch, Strimtom has a spooky summer, so if you want to check out that. Illuminati, quests on Galanda, and Icy Gothica runs Night Revels. On YouTube, Axel delves into gear and monster changes. Samus Grobo celebrates his birthday, and Mystic Camera Productions heads into Castle Ravenloft. Let's see.
I don't know Mystic Camera Productions. Who the heck is that?
Someone new? I don't know. It's a fun name, though.
Okay.
I'm assuming they play like other games too, maybe. Kind of a guess.
Okay.
But I don't know.
This was their time of the month to stream DDO, I guess.
Maybe. Hey, if you stream, like if you're out there, you're listening to the show, and that you stream or make videos for DDO, ping Jerry. Contact at sandstonegames.com. Let them know that you're doing stuff. My general experience is if you send them a message and say, "Hey, I did this really cool video," especially if you're not someone that like shows up in here all the time, you'll probably find yourself in the Chronicle. He does have a tendency to be looking to highlight newer content creators with the game. So
yeah, and on top of that, if you have an event or something going on in game, and you send Jerry a note, a PM, and what he'll do is he'll go ahead and post in the thread. Assuming you post a thread about it, he'll go ahead and post in the thread something like neat or cool or thanks for doing this or something, just so that the thread appears on the
dev tracker.
In the dev tracker. That way you can get some more views of your thread
Mm-hmm.
and more publicity for your event.
Yep, exactly. Let's see, D&D night on DDO streams Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. There is not going to be an episode tomorrow since it's Independence Day. I might throw up a rerun or something for it, but there won't be a new D&D night tomorrow, but we'll be back the week after that. And then let's see, Lava Divers are also supposed to be playing D&D night today as well. So if you're listening to this live, in a couple hours we'll be doing that. But if you're not, you can find those videos on DDOCast.com or on our YouTube page as well. Been posting them there as well. If you want to watch some more D&D, that group is doing Descent into a Furnace, and it's been a lot of fun so far. So. All right, that'll take us to some lightning posts. We did have some Fuzzy Duck wrote in regarding our episode last week, and I'll probably get some of Arkat's thoughts here as well, while we're just kind of in the neighborhood of the last stuff. Because there's been a lot of stuff recently that big and fun to talk about. Fuzzy Duck says he feels it's a shame about the gear nerfs, meaning they won't be able to get such high numbers, but the reasoning makes sense. It's the knock-on effects that'll be interesting, though. Past lives will be proportionally better. Enemies will be getting hit point saves nerfed at the same time. It means DC-based stuff and attacks will be more achievable, less super-powered players. But also mean things like insta-kills, crowd control proc effects on weapons will be more reliable and have value again, versus just going for the highest pure damage numbers. Changing Keen to remove the plus W is good. Not having it on the Feywild raid weapons made them inferior to those that had them, including the legendary Black Razor. With little luck and group can be farmed relatively easy in an afternoon, and while, yeah, it's great, it really shouldn't be flat out better than raid gear. Changing it to guaranteed fort bypass on Vorpal is a fun compromise. Yeah, we'll kind of pause there for a sec. It is kind of an interesting choice with the Keen. I like that it's doing something kind of unique and different. I'm sure people will miss the plus W.
Yeah, I'll certainly miss it. But there's a problem here. So if you're, if bypassing fortification is a big deal, and it is, now what you're going to be doing is you're now funneling builds towards builds that will use perfect single weapon fighting, because they get to double the Whirlpool chance on it.
19 to 20.
So 19 or 20. Some of there's a great crossbow thing that also does something similar, and also in Fury, the Fury Destiny, there's a tier 5 thing that power that lets you also double your Vorpal chance if you're using a two-handed weapon. So
You're talking about Fury now, right?
yes, correct.
Do you remember if that was true of Fury Future?
No, I don't, but I didn't. I would imagine I would have seen something if they were changing that. I didn't see anything about changing perfect single weapon fighting or
Yeah, no, that's staying the same.
the great crossbow thing either. So, I mean,
I can't
if they
remember
were
if
going
the
to change
Vorpal
it
thing
for
is in
one, why
the.
wouldn't they change it for all of them?
Well, they're changing the trees are just like all completely different. I don't recall seeing it in there, but I wasn't looking for it either.
But that's the effect. They're going to be funneling builds and going to be funneling people into certain builds again. And I just wonder if they considered that.
Sure.
I mean, in a way, I agree with Fuzzy Duck. If we take a step back in the previous paragraph, where we're nerfing, nerfing the stats and on items, um, you know, because there were such large power jumps, I guess from like the mid 20s, and then when you got to Ravenloft, everything just took an incredibly high leap into the stratosphere as far as item power is concerned. So, I understand why you would want to reduce the power because what they're trying to do is they're trying to space that power out over 20 levels, instead of the 10, epic levels that we have now. When they raise the cap, I imagine they'll eventually raise the cap to 40. So they're spacing that power out over the extra 20 levels above the base 20 levels, and presumably by the time we get to level 40, we'll get back to the power levels, or at least similar levels that we have now. And it's a way to stretch out the game and make it last longer. So, which also means more sales. So I understand why they did it. Just the thing that I'm concerned about is, you know, they posted that that they will nerf, and Fuzzy Duck mentioned that they'll nerf the monsters. But my real concern is, will they nerf the monsters as much as they nerfed our equipment? And I think the jury's
Sure.
probably still out on that. And that's really what my concern is. I mean, all the DCs are going to get nerfed, but I understand there's going to be some increase in DC help, in some of the Epic Destiny trees. But is it going to be enough to handle the monsters, or did they reduce the monsters enough for those lower item effects to be useful? I don't know, and I just have to wait and see.
Yeah, cleaning up a couple of things. The uh, Fury does not still have an expanded Vorpal range in the
Okay,
previewed Destiny.
great. It's
Um,
wonderful.
it does have a critical multiplier for 19 to 20, but it just doesn't count it as a Vorpal.
Okay.
Um, it'll be interesting that I can't compute in my head if the new Keen is better than the old Keen, in the sense that I haven't done the math, but also remember that enemy fortification is coming down, so fortification might in general be less of an issue.
Oh, so
Question mark.
even more of an incentive to double your vorpal range.
Uh, sure, yeah. I think what you're saying with like expanding the Vorpal range there like makes sense that people might move towards that more. So I do think there's an interesting thing with like Keen, in that it'll be interesting to see if they come out with like an improved Keen, kind of like they had with Vorpal. Maybe like improved Keen that it bypasses on a natural 19 or 20. Um, that
Well,
could
that would
be.
certainly be more fair to various builds, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's also I'd have to check the language. Like it may be that Keen it only does it on a natural. I don't know if it's on a natural 20 or if it's on a Vorpal strike. Because
Well,
the
it
two are
so
not the same thing, right? Because of what you're
well,
talking about.
not well. I thought that too, PJ. On Whelm, there's a power that works only on a 20. At least that's what it says. But I did testing with it, and
It works on a 19
um,
with single weapon fighting.
no, well, I guess it was. Yeah, that's right. It was perfect single weapon fighting, and the power, I forget, it might be the lightning strike, or it might be the sonic damage. It was one of whichever one it was. It said on a 20. The physical, as it's worded in the description, says on a 20. Well, I did testing, and it works on a 19 or 20 if you have perfect single weapon fighting, and basically doubles the vorpal range.
So the game is not differentiating between the
It's
two.
not differentiating the two.
Sure.
Correct.
Um, it'll be interesting to see if they have some improved or superior Keen in the future to kind of expand that a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. Um, I will say that you're talking a lot about like it'll work if they can balance the monsters, right? I,
Yeah.
that I think should be, and this is kind of I think part of the point, right? It should be easier because if you're not having that huge jump at 29 with all the gear, um, then you don't have to design things in a way that either, because what ends up happening there is because of that huge gap, the difference between 28 and 29,
Right.
designing things for people who have that gear at 29 makes it really hard for the people at level 28 that don't yet have that gear. And so you can, by compressing those numbers together, you end up in a place where it's easier to balance for both at the same time, in theory.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, and that's the theory. I mean, will they go ahead and actually reduce the numbers, by what they should? And I am, I, I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions and say anything particularly nasty, but it just seems to me that too many things that I've seen have slipped through the cracks, have
Mm-hmm.
been forgotten about or ignored for me to have any full confidence that yes, they'll go ahead and reduce the DCs, reduce the hit points, reduce the armor class, whatever it is, by the amount that they should. I am just not confident that that will happen.
And if am I correct in understanding that you're not just talking about like the first time through, but like if we get the first pass and then it becomes apparent that this thing over here needs to be adjusted, then you're not confident it's going to be changed. That's going to be
No,
addressed quickly.
no, because many times people have pointed out things on the forums, and have have put in tickets about this particular issue, and I guess maybe there's part of it that might be a priority issue, that this kind of thing isn't all that super important, so we don't need to fix it now, and then they never get around to fixing it. But I mean, there have been some things that have been fairly important, and then have just been ignored from what and this is anecdotal, so I don't have, I haven't written down a spreadsheet where this particular issue was first reported on this day, and it's now this patch hasn't been fixed, this patch hasn't been fixed, this patch hasn't. I haven't done it in a scientific, objective way, but I guarantee you, if you ask a question on the forums that how is SSG's or turbines slash SSG's track record and fixing things that have been pointed out, how what is their track record like? And I guarantee a lot of people will say, I'll be kind, I'll say that it's not that great.
Sure.
So I just don't think that they'll go back and resolve a lot of stuff. Now like I said, there'll be some things that they will, but there's just going to be too many things that will just fall by the wayside, and a lot of and to be fair, a lot of that might have to do with their schedule. I mean, they are on they put out like an update like once every 3 months, and it's an insane schedule if you ask me. And I'm gonna guess it's something that's dictated to them by their parent company, whoever it happens to be. In this case, I don't know about EG7. Maybe they'll have a little bit different philosophy, but before it was they were they were basically whoever their parent company was were slave drivers, it seemed to me, and they just really put a lot of pressure on turbines slash SSG to just get content out there, and I
Well,
think the quality
content's what makes
suffered
money,
and it
right?
continues to suffer.
Yeah. Let's see. Going back to, I think you actually made a comment about this in the forums. Fuzzy Duck says that so much gear being relevant now and parity of power level means new items can't rely just on having higher numbers, so they're going to have some other incentives to get them. Cool
Yes.
art, different bonus types, that kind of thing. I think you had actually commented. I think I saw a comment for you on the forums that, uh,
Boring.
yeah. Although I was going to ask you, do you think? Because I'm trying to think how to word this. I don't think the numbers is what makes it boring or exciting to me, right? Like, it doesn't matter if the strength of this item is going up, if the strength stats are going up to 22 or the stats are only going up to 14, right? Because in a relative term, they're all kind of the same. So, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, numbers going down to me doesn't make them more or less exciting, but it's the stuff that has, like, new different things on them, right? That seems to be, to me, what makes loot more exciting and interesting.
Sure, absolutely. But the way that Linabelle phrased her post, it sounded like there's now going to be a process, a loot building process, which means to
Is
me,
there not one already?
you put in stuff in one end, and then this so-called process chews on it and spits out, an item that is similar in power levels. It doesn't, there is no, they're all plus 13, whatever it happens to be. And, because this process has regularized, item power across the board. So I got the impression that this so-called process just will take room out for creativity. So I mean, because you won't have a bow with an increase, with a 19 to 20 critical range, threat range. Even if it was a raid item now, because the process won't allow for that. I mean, I know that as far as critical range, that they were trying to get rid of all these outliers as far as the crit profiles are concerned. But I'm just using that as an example, where maybe you could deviate from the standard every once in a while, if you could find a good justification for it. Using a process now seems to me that that there's less of a chance of that happening. So therefore, much more standardized, much more, quite frankly, boring. So, but Linabelle, still, she replied to my comment, and suggested that people make comments on when they put out loot previews and so forth, and I'm sure people will. But again, too many times I see really cool suggestions ignored. Now, a lot of those cool suggestions are overpowered and ridiculously so. And they're you ignore them for good reason. I
Sure.
mean, there's one or two people on the forums that just consistently put out ridiculously overpowered stuff, and it's no wonder they get ignored. But I mean, there's some pretty reasonable suggestions out there, and yes, Linabelle does, occasionally, I'd say, oh, could I replace this power with that power? Would that be okay? And kudos for them for that. That's nice. But again, here's where my lack of confidence comes through. I just don't see. I just feel like this is going to be a dampener on creativity.
So the thing that I find kind of interesting, like what you're all saying, is like I thought that has been all true for a while, right? Like the only thing that's different in the quote process, as far as I can tell, is that the numbers are going to be more compressed. They're not going to be 29. It's not going to be this huge jump in statting numbers, but the abilities are all going to be the same. Just the certain numbers are going to be lower, and they're using the same process that they have been using. It's just the
What
numbers are
about
going to be
new
lower.
loot though, PJ? What about new stuff? I mean, for the next,
Well, but
the
so this is
the
where
next
like,
content.
was Feywild loot not exciting?
Well, they did some really cool stuff with the Feywild. The Fey Twisted stuff. I mean, that
Yeah,
was pretty cool.
yeah.
Um,
But
I
my
guess
point is, like,
maybe.
Feywild is built within the same process that you're talking about. Like that, that's their process. It's been their process for a while. The only thing that's changing about the process is what are the numbers? How high are the numbers?
You know what? I hope you're right. I hope you're right, PJ. I really do. I mean, I really hope that there's still the room for the creativity to do some unique things. But I just, I just see it as less of a chance of doing something, not unexpected.
I think,
That's probably my
yeah.
cynicism shining through there.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong, right? Like this is kind of where I was at with kind of like what makes gear exciting. Well, the number being one better than what I have isn't to me super exciting. maybe you can get a combination. Like if you get this like really super combination of 4 things on an item that like just totally fit your build or something, that's exciting. But other than that, what's interesting to me is stuff that's kind of a little different, like the Fate Twisted, right? Like, oh, there's these special chests that just kind of really scream, ooh, shiny, right?
Sure.
And some of that stuff's not that good. Um, but then also like some of the newer abilities that are on things, like turning things to ice or gold or something like that, is kind of fun.
Right.
The Crown of Summer being on an item, or I'm kind of hoping maybe they'll have some items that maybe tie into some of the feats that they want to prop up. That could be kind of interesting too. So,
Sure.
um, speaking of which, Fuzzy Duck mentions boosting things like dragon marks on new gear. I think that while it might just be, hey, we haven't done anything with these for a while, it could also be a subtle indicator of something happening with them later on. A revamp of existing ones, introduction of aberrant dragon marks. Could apply to any Ebron-based character, maybe even a Hair of Cerberus Universal Tree, or Epic Destiny could all be possible within lore. Yeah, sure. It's going to be nice having the old Scroll Seal Shard stuff being relevant again. Through my pack rat hoarding tendencies, could probably do without the positive reinforcement. Still, it'd be good to claim 150 plus shared bank slots. Only 150, and you call yourself a pack rat. Level up, sir.
That's all my Shard Steel Scroll stuff are in a huge ingredient bag. I don't have any problem with storage space with that stuff.
I mean, that bag is pretty damn full on mine. So. It'll likely make that content more popular to run again, while finally getting Epic SOS is something to look forward to. For me, it's the Ring of Spell Storing. I'm excited to have a Ring of Spell Storing that's epic, maybe even legendary. Right, that could be fun. Looking forward to seeing the legendary Whirlwind, Mirage, Zoom, and etc. do as well. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Soul Leader, yeah, I want to see Soul Leader do something good. I always liked that quarterstaff, and they just never really did anything cool with it after.
Yeah, I will point out again, if you are one of the pack rats who has years and years and years worth of this stuff, start with your shards and seals, turn those in because they're bound. Scrolls are not. So if you later find that a friend that needs just a couple more bits and bobs, you can trade them a scroll.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can sell them on the auction house, right? So maybe don't be in a hurry to turn in all your scrolls, is all I'm saying. Generic mythic upgrade thing could be great if it's able to be added to any item. Might even pave the way for festival bonuses to be able to add it in a similar way. Yeah, it'd be kind of neat.
Sure, I'd like to get some +2 mythic or +4 mythic added to some of
Mm-hmm.
my weapons. Absolutely.
Yeah. As it's appropriately priced, I don't have an issue with it. I love it. That's one of those ones that I'm kind of okay with them just being like chaser, you have to pull it kind of thing. It's okay. Because I don't think like you still have the item. Having it
Well,
be a +1 or +5 is not. I mean, it's a game of +1s. I get that.
well, they've done it already. You can make
Well, just with the
your slave lord stuff. You can
yeah.
add a +1 or a +3
Mhm.
on your items.
Yeah.
I don't see why they couldn't allow you to do it for weapons, for example.
Sure. And I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. What I'm saying is I would much rather be able to get that damn sentient gem from Strahd than do this. Horizon Walker looks interesting, especially for non-rangers. Can see archer, rogues, and fighters in particular becoming a popular option. Also toying with the idea of a wizard. Yeah. Marking system could be a bit of a hassle for regular use beyond opening combat and boss fights. Yeah, that's probably true. What do you think of Horizon Walker? You taking a
I
look
am
at it
not
much?
I am not impressed with it. I do like the trance. The
Yeah.
trance is cool. I do like that a lot. But I got to say, there's a lot of other very minor things in there I don't care about. I think somebody asked, or Steel Star posted made a post on the forums, and he gave like 5 or 6 reasons why, his melee or whatever might want to go into or other classes might want to go into Horizon Walker. And they were every single reason he gave was lame. Every
Sure.
single
Was this
one.
was this before or after he announced that they were gonna make some tweaks to some of that stuff?
I think it was probably before.
Okay.
So I guess I would like to see what the tweaks are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like if you are a ranger, like I'm still not. They need to do a lot of work for me for Horizon Walker to get me to take points out of Arcane Archer or Deepwood Stalker.
Deepwood, Deepwood
Right.
Sniper. Yeah, I just don't see myself taking points out of Deepwood Sniper to put him into Horizon Walker.
If you
I really
have
don't.
those three trees all at the same time, I like I feel like you're going to be sticking him in Arcane Archer and Deepwood,
Hmm.
not Horizon Walker.
Right.
Having said that, look what he's saying here. Like if you're a rogue or a fighter or uh, a wizard bow user, right, then I think Horizon Walker becomes more appealing because you don't have those other two trees. So,
Right. That makes
uh,
sense.
negating item wear not being useful. Clearly, you've not played a quarterstaff monk or rogue. Great fun since strike through and double strike changes, but they're notoriously fragile weapons. um, yeah, that's a fair point.
Yep.
And no, I don't play those.
Oh, yeah, I love my blade forged that
Yeah,
uses the
yeah.
fork from Lord of Blades. Oh, I love that thing so much. It's totally
I,
awesome.
I don't think I've seen you
And
pull him
doesn't
out for
take
a
a
while.
doesn't take a lot of wear and tear though.
Yeah. Uh, there you go. That's most of the Fuzzy Ducks comments. Um, did you want to talk a little bit about the Epic Destiny stuff or other stuff from the past couple weeks? Give your quick shout out, your
No,
quick thoughts
I
on that,
think
or
pretty much what's needed to be said has been said. So I don't want to bore anybody.
sure. All right. Well, that's just news for today. So stay tuned. On the back half, we'll have part 2 of our Update 49 review with Voodoo and Epic. I think that's right. I probably should have looked that up. Make sure I had that right before I started saying it. Do you got anything you wanna plug here, sir?
No, I don't think so. Just like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, tomorrow it could be a lot of fun. But with fireworks and all that, but fireworks also present a real danger. So please do not take them lightly. And the reason why I say it's because I had an accident with something similar to a firework many, many, many years ago, and I lost part of a finger because of it. Um, do not take these things lightly, and especially do not drink
Uh,
and mess around with these things. These are can be very, very dangerous. So always keep your head in the game and pay attention to what the heck you're doing.
have fun, but be safe.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, it's a great message to close out. Thanks, Arkat, for joining us today. Thanks to all the contributors for DDOCast. Thanks for listening to the show, and thanks to Sandstone Games and Wizard of the Coast and the Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website at DDOcast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also head out there for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff, including various adventures in DDO, D&D tabletop, and even some other games. If you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, or a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, leave a comment, or you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media for the latest cast updates. At DDOcast on Twitter is the best place. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your tests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs. Right. So I think we can move on to some of the other stuff. Let's talk about the bow changes. So I'm not gonna like list through all of them, but there was a huge pass on bows. Um, and Epic's played with this a lot more than I have, so you can probably kind of help me out. But the big ideas are the attack animation speed is more uniform and can actually be modified and become faster. It doesn't hit a artificial speed cap. They really changed mini shot. In general, they're trying to make it more of an even DPS experience, as opposed to being super bursty for 20 seconds and not good for the rest of it.
Yes, several of the feats were changed, and your statically standing DPS has increased, burst DPS has decreased. I'm currently playing a 20 Ranger Deepwood Sniper and have been since bow changers were introduced a few weeks or maybe a couple months ago at this point. I don't remember. But I'm very satisfied with that build in particular. I cannot speak to bow changes and how they play on other classes. But to me, they're in a pretty good spot. So I don't do as much DPS as some of our guilds top in melee, which is how it should be, but I'm also competitive and not too far behind. So I've had a lot of fun in both Reapers and push raids, which I've taken it to now at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting because they, for the game performance stuff, which we'll talk about in the future, they talk about like they wanted to make it less bursty, right? So they wanted to make it less. You're doing all your damage in 20 seconds, and the rest of the time you're just kind of marking time until you can get to that 20 seconds of mini shot again. But at the same time, because the other changes, like the numbers are higher because of the doubling effect with the multi-hit calculations and how they change how that's working. So I'm having this incongruous problem in my head of watching my much spikier numbers go, wait, I'm supposed to be less bursty, but like that big number just happened.
I mean, yeah. So Hunt Sand and Adrenaline were dropped down to compensate some for that, and you're not seeing the numbers that we were seeing on land. But yeah, you're still definitely seeing some high numbers there, and gotta say I love it. It's bursty enough. I love seeing those big numbers, but I also don't feel completely useless. I'm not useless in, let's say, Reapers when I don't have, back in the day, mini shot running up the whole time. You're just questing, and I can still do DPS. So I think it's in a good place. I don't think it needs to be bumped up. I don't think it needs to be dropped down. We'll see what happens, though, when Horizon Walker is introduced in the next few weeks, in the coming weeks, hopefully.
Is that coming with Saltmarsh, or is that coming later? I don't remember anymore.
To my understanding, it was supposed to be this summer with Epic
With
Destiny
Saltmarsh.
changes in the fall. Yeah. Okay. And we're supposed to be having Lamania in the next few weeks. So
yeah,
maybe we'll get an early peek to that.
Get a lot of stuff to talk about in the coming future with that.
You said Epic Destiny revamp is coming in the fall, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, yes, and we get the first look at it, I think, next week, potentially, on Lamania.
That's the rumor. Although I guess it's a little bit more of a rumor because that's coming from Coco. But
I'm enthusiastic. There's lots of good stuff coming in the pipeline.
Yeah, there is. Regards to bows, I did not retool my bow build at all with the changes, but it definitely feels like I like it more, right? And I've always been someone who I really like getting the spiky numbers. Like you could tell me that I'm doing less DPS, but if my numbers are bigger occasionally, I'm going to be happier. So I just like getting those big numbers in attacking. So that's kind of fun. I kind of like the animation. I know the animation I think is getting mixed reviews. And I think actually in the chat, Bond is mocking the new bow animation. I kind of like it.
It's not that bad. I don't care one way or the other, but it does not look bad to me.
I think it looks better than the old one. I think it looks more natural. Maybe that's just because I watched some videos of some like trick shotty people on YouTube, 10 years ago, and it looks more like that, or like more like movies, right? It just feels more. It feels less like an archer way in the back, and it feels more like an archer that would be actually in combat, running around a battlefield, a hectic battlefield, and not just standing in formation.
Sure, and the many shot animation looks great. I love it.
Bond actually makes up an interesting choice. I wonder what I haven't really ever played I haven't ever played Lord of the Rings, but I'm kind of wondering what their bow animations look like.
More akin to the traditional, what it was before. Keep it straight, pull the bow string by your head, type thing. But yeah, it's. I've heard a lot of people say it's more realistic, but in a world of Dungeons and Dragons, I don't care about realistic. I just want it to look good.
Yeah, that's fair. Realism in Dungeons and Dragons is kind of a silly thing, right? Yeah, but I think we give thumbs up, right? Like they're definitely in a better place. I think it's less bursty. If you were looking for that, there's occasionally points where it's like, man, I wish I could just like mow something down for 20 seconds right now. But other than those brief moments, like my overall experience playing a bow has been much more enjoyable. Feels much more even. Love it a lot better. So, all right. Well, let's talk about the game performance changes. So this was the even bigger thing that came than the bow changes. So a quick rundown of this. They changed how double strike and double shot work. So instead of giving you extra hits, and thus applying all of your effects, chances, and things to monsters as you were hitting them, they made it so that it doubles your damage instead, which means you get less effects. The whole idea behind this change was to reduce performance issues that were caused by hitting, just completely queuing up the effects processes too much. That's the super short version. You can listen to our earlier shows where we talked about those. And if I did my job better, I would tell you which show we talked about that in, but I don't know off the top of my head. So I guess there's kind of two things I think we really want to discuss, and there might be some more. But one, did it work? Is our game performance experience better? And two, how does the changes with numbers and double strikes and effects feel?
That's a big question.
I love asking big questions. But we do have a bunch of raiders here, right? Like, so Lava Divers raids a couple times a week usually. High Lords of Maku, you guys raid what, like every night?
Almost.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, I don't play, double strikey, double shotty characters because I'm caster exclusive, but I can speak to the game performance, and I can't say that I've really noticed anything. You know, we were doing MODs last night, Mark of Death last night, and it was, pretty laggy, but I'm sure there are other things causing that in there anyways, but I can't say that I've personally noticed, but I'm not necessarily rolling with like Uber DPS crew.
For the performance perspective side of things, it's hard to know because you don't know when you're not experiencing lag from the lag or from it not being there. So I don't know. Raids generally have felt okay to me lately. We do have occasional lag spikes, but it's not been terrible. And I can talk about the double strike and the effects changes, but if you want to talk about the performance changes that you've experienced leading raids, PJ.
Yeah, so So my perspective on this comes from leading into these changes. I was typically leading our guild raids twice a week, and with a heavy focus on, pretty much every day we were running Dryad, Vision of Destruction, Lord of Blades, and like those three at least once. Master Artificer usually, and then occasionally some other ones. And after, when this change kind of hit was about the time baseball season was ramping up. So I've been rating less since the change has come out. But I think that this has been actually a pretty solid win in the game performance category. And I really kind of point to Vision of Destruction more than the other ones. Because I really feel like in that quest, in that raid specifically, where there is a lot of stand and deliver, it has not been anywhere near as chunky as it was before the change. Like I feel like we were very consistently getting pretty chunky in Vision of Destruction, both when we were fighting the Orthons and Sulamadis. There were some just really, especially the last section of Orthons, really tended to be like leading into that pretty chunky. And I have not had that experience. I don't think, maybe like once or twice has it even gotten chunky, and it was chunkier in other places at the same times, in the other raids at the same time. So I really feel like the performance stuff has had a noticeable increase, or a much better experience in that regard. I think I recognize that a little bit to a lesser extent in Lord of Blades. Although that raid's mechanics where he's jumping up kind of minimize that problem a little bit more than VOD does. So in Dryad and Master Artificer don't really have those sections in a length of time where it tends to get chunky. So I think it's been effective. But your mileage may vary depending on what you're doing and how you're playing the game. So, and it's not to say that there aren't other performance issues, obviously, still. So, go ahead, Epic, about the talk to us about the numbers effects part of it. What are your thoughts on that?
I like the bigger numbers.
Right.
It does look nice. And, overall, the only way that really plays into your benefit is if you can make use of those bigger numbers like Hunt Sand or Adrenaline. But there's quite a few negatives that it introduced as well. You'll hear a lot of people talk about proc effects. There is a noticeable difference with, let's say, Nerve Venom on a ranged. That 7% that used to get multiplied by, times 5 on a thrower or times 4 is now just 1 or 2. So that is a difference. And on the melee side of things, I've heard some of our guildies, I don't traditionally play melee, but I've heard that that it's really changed the way some of those old mechanics are played on, like, let's say a 2-weapon fighter, or not necessarily a 2-weapon fighter, because those still have both hands that are proccing, but you're not getting those procs on a 2-handed fighting that used to get close to 100% double strike on most builds. And now you're just getting one, so it takes a long time to build up procs or debuffs on those, which is created a niche for 2-weapon fighting, and we've used that in our own push rates, knowing that they can build up debuffs a lot faster now than 2-handed fighting. Overall, the changes are fine to me. I know some people were saying the sky was falling before, but they always say the sky is falling, and we're still alive. And as far as DPS goes, I've not noticed much of an increase or decrease either way. If anything, I think a little bit of an increase is there since the changes. But overall, I fine balance change, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd say the same about the numbers. It feels, in some situations, I think it feels a little higher. And I think that's probably coming from, I think I said this on the show before, that's kind of what I was expecting, because if you think about how the Reaper damage reduction works, where each hit is getting penalized, if you just double it but you still give it the same penalty, you might find that or same with damage reduction in general, you might find that you punch through it a little bit better, particularly with the not necessarily like that front number, but the secondary numbers. I would expect might be big enough to punch through and actually do damage, as opposed to always being zeros.
Hey, my Force Ritual does 1 point of damage in R10, so I'm happy.
But yeah, so the numbers, like I said, the numbers feel great to me, because it's like I'm always going to be like, oh, bigger numbers. Like I'm not, and I think that's probably a fairly common player experience too, right? Like, how am I measuring how much damage I'm doing? I'm looking at the number that's right in front of me. I'm not paying attention to as much as to how much damage I'm doing over a long period of time, because I don't generally, like, I have to be really super intentional about trying to measure that. And there's not, there's some places that you can do that. I know that like people like to use the guy at the front of Cabal to kind of do that kind of crunching and time looking at it from a time perspective. But for me, like, it's always been, hey, my numbers are bigger, I'm happier, I'm doing more damage.
Yeah. It depends on what type of game you play. I mean, if you want to know how fast you can kill a guy in 20 seconds, then that's one set of numbers. But someone like myself, or most of our guildies who might want to go into an R10 raid, you're not looking at 20 seconds. You're looking at sometimes an hour or an hour and a half. So right. I don't really care what your burst numbers look like if you suck the rest of the time. So calculating DPS is an incredibly difficult thing to do in DDO. It took Ying and I and several others several hours to do bows and get it all correct. So I understand most people are just looking at those big numbers, but it doesn't tell the whole story either.
Right. The effects thing, and man, I have to say, this change came at a really bad time for me to really test that change, because my monk which would be the guy that I would really care about the effects changes and having fewer effects landing and stuff, and that my character that would give me the best feel for how these changes are going to impact me is currently an alchemist doing past lives. So I don't have that as a great option right now. But it's less of a concern for me than it was when we were looking at the changes, just because watching other people. I mean, look, people are still landing effects, and you mentioned 2-weapon fighters as kind of a niche place in debuffing. I think casters also are going to find themselves in that place, right? Because nothing changed in terms of my spells and how many times they hit and how those applying debuffs as well, which I think is actually even kind of more of an interesting thing when you're talking about doing higher difficulty content, because if you bring a DC caster that just is a DC caster and doesn't really do a whole lot else, what are you going to do? What do you bring to a boss fight? And typically the answer is, well, I take care of the trash. Well, what if there's no trash to take care of, right? Like, think about Lord of Blades. There's trash at the beginning of that fight and trash at the end of that fight, and a whole lot of not trash in the middle. And so if people can find a niche for casters in that debuffing space, I think that's a good thing too. So
yeah, I agree. Magic missiles.
Yeah.
All the way.
Magic Missile, Frost Lance, Scorching Ray, Multi-Vial, these are all things that have multiple hits, right? So they would be able to apply things multiple times. So there's some room there for some higher degree of party Tetris makeup for pushing your content difficulty, which is fun. So, I had a couple quick things to also mention from the update that happened that I think we can talk about really quick. Since we're kind of talking about rating, has anyone run Caught in the Web since the changes? Guessing the answer is no. But...
Not.
No, I haven't.
Yeah. So Caught in the Web had some tweaks with the end fight that should make it easier, which I think is a good thing because that can be kind of a little annoying, frustrating section. Especially, let's just say these days, I don't expect a group running Caught in the Web to be as organized as it might have been back in the day, because it's not going to be super hard, but that end fight with the portal keepers, you could easily find yourself chasing your tail.
Big time.
Also, Fate Twisted, the raid loot that is Fate Twisted is now buyable with raid runes, which I think we all like, right?
Yep, nice.
But I'm not really crazy about the cost. I don't know. The Fate Twisted items, they're just like variations. I don't think that like the rune cost is justified by the power of it.
Because it's 2,500, right?
It's double the
Double,
cost.
yeah.
The way I look at that is most raids have 2 chests now, so it still takes about the same amount of time as it would, as opposed to having 1 chest that we used to get. And also, I don't think it's about the power, but the rarity of getting them. So you're paying, I guess, for the rarity and not the power.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we could probably chase our tail around that. I could see that going either direction. I mean, the fact that they're buyable is a huge win for me, I think, just because like I said, I've run this raid a bunch, and I think I've seen 2, maybe 3 Fate Twisted chests.
I've never seen one.
Yeah, like it. I don't. Is it more likely if you're on a higher difficulty? I don't even know.
No, I don't think so. I mean, they'll know, but I don't. Not from my experience.
Sure. So it just doesn't happen very often to get there, and I think maybe the bigger problem with it is still that I'd kind of like them to tweak that number up a little bit. It's probably the same as the other chests. It's probably pretty consistent with the number of chests that I've opened in the Feywild that are Fate Twisted or not. But I kind of maybe wouldn't mind if they up the increase of Fate Twisted chests just in general. And even then, you get a Fate Twisted raid chest. It doesn't give everyone a Fate Twisted raid item, right? Like they're super rare.
Regular chest. If if Linnabelle wants to drop the costs, I won't complain or protest.
Yeah. And I'm still on record of saying, like, hey, the all of the, like, there's other raids that have these like super rare items. Specifically the sentient gem in Strahd. Like, you could put that in there for 5,000 raid runes. Great, I'll go do it. Like, I'll go get that. 10,000, you're gonna get in my craw a little bit. The 10,000 is a little much, but like, I don't care if the cost is higher. If it's a rare item, like, just give me a chance to get the item. Right? Like,
I understand. I don't know how I feel. I'd have to think about it. I understand the having things that are rare that you might not necessarily purchase, but I also understand it's frustrating to run Strahd 100 times and not get the sentient gem. So,
I mean, I've only seen it drop once.
I have one.
Okay, and now I think I know 4 people who have one. But all right, some other stuff. The Lord's March Plaza loot got revamped. I'll admit I didn't take a super close look at this stuff. But when I passed through it on hardcore, it was like, oh hey, this stuff's actually looks pretty decent now. I'm gonna take this ring. So
yeah, that's good changes. they look nice.
And
So it wasn't a total overhaul. Basically, what they did is they just brought up the base stats to what scales with current Kenneth crafting standards, and then they added slots as well.
but that's huge though too, right? Like those changes alone are like, oh, this stuff actually can compete in the real world now. It's great.
I don't think that vampiric stone dust hand wraps are going to become a thing again, but I think especially like on a hardcore environment, like you were saying, is definitely going to be some value there on the live servers. Probably not for most.
Yeah, my you look at all right, live, and my gear set for heroics is pretty well fit. I mean, my past lives gear set is pretty well fixed all across the board, but so it takes something kind of special to punch into that, and none of this did that. Lord's March Plaza, but I don't think that's necessarily surprising or a bad thing, right? Like it's also I'm kind of running a caster, an intelligence-based caster, so nothing stands out to me off the top of my head out of Lord's Mars Plaza that really says intelligence-based DPS caster. So, but I'm more in the charisma ring on my paladin tank on hardcore, so it was a nice fit and nice upgrade to what I had. So it was great. Let's see, there was a couple of other things that were fixed. Which kind of want to give mention to. Key shout was fixed, sort of.
Shout out to Linabelle for fixing it after all these years.
Very nice. Yeah, if you didn't catch what happened there is Linabelle actually just like made the ability to do something completely different. It doesn't work like it should from a code-based perspective, but it works like it should from our perspective. So, win.
That's all I care about.
Yeah, right. Also, there were some erroneous hits removed off of Wolf Attacks, Holy Retribution, and Momentum Swing. I think the big one there is probably Holy Retribution. I know I was in a fairly heated conversation about that with some of my guildies one raid night about how Holy Retribution just doesn't feel like a good ability anymore, in no small part because of this.
Yeah, I won't get back into it, but it's a bad change.
Yeah, so there's I haven't really heard much about like Momentum Swing or the Wolf Attacks and people's feelings on that. But that would also be the same kind of thing.
Yeah, so the animal form attacks, those were being abused a little bit, so I know about those changes. And but yeah, I've not heard about Momentum Swing. I didn't even know it's changed until now.
So that's happening. I mean, I understand that, hey, this ability is less good now, but also it wasn't supposed to be giving you those extra hits. So, that they should do what my stance is always going to be, they should do what they're supposed to do. And if that's not compelling, then change what they're supposed to do, but make them do what they're supposed to do correctly. Because it's, especially, I think when you start talking about like new players and like those kind of hidden things that aren't working the way they're supposed to be, and then those are being leveraged. Newer players, I think, are definitely going to not pick up on that anywhere near as fast. So things should do what they're supposed to do. And if
would like to add a giant asterisk to that.
Oh yeah.
And that is that, when we talk about, you mentioned new players and the gap, and that, therefore the gap between new players and experienced players. And so many times people want to point to past lives and say that's the gap. But what you just said is not given enough attention, that those veteran players are using things like this to get that extra performance that new players aren't going to catch on to. And more casual players aren't going to learn about that stuff until the veteran ballers have, leveraged that to no end, and then it gets nerfed.
Yeah.
So those sort of veterans that are at the cutting edge of things are constantly, following that flavor of the month and whatever's doing the best results. But the rest of the player base can never catch up because it gets changed by the time, the rest of us schmucks learn about it.
That happens a lot, and not just
Yeah.
performance like that happens in a lot of aspects of the game.
But the important point there is that the gap between new player and veteran player, so much of it is that kind of stuff, and it's not the bazillion past lives. Past lives are great. I'm not sweeping them under the rug, but I don't think enough attention is given to what we're just talking about right here.
Yeah, and I understand it, and I agree with you. I think the paradox there is that the devs or most of the population don't know they're overperforming until you have that segment of the population that says, wow, this is really good. Right? So someone's got to discover it. Someone's got to make use of it or even abuse it before you can say, hey, that's too much and we need to change it. I think specifically like with the paladin change, I wouldn't even say, or actually with most of the changes outside of the animal form changes, I don't know if the player base thought that they were not performing like they should. I did not know that Holy Ret was not performing like the devs wanted it to.
It's interesting. Like I feel like I when I was playing a paladin that was using it a lot, I think it was just like a couple past lives with the paladin, getting past like paladin past lives. I remember like the first time I was using it, I was like, "That's weird. Is it supposed to hit that many times? That feels like a lot of hits." And then I just kind of moved on. Like, oh, it's kind of fun. It hits hard. It hits a lot. I like it. So I definitely at least had that like inkling of I'm not sure it's supposed to hit this much, but I never really looked into it. So
maybe, but like it was that way on Lamania. So when they know it's there and it's pushed to live, I don't think it's on the player to say, "Oh, this isn't how they want it to be." I mean, it's been like that at that point for a while, and I can understand people's frustrations and disappointed.
The longer it's not working as intended, the more it feels like it should be working as intended.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Right. The last thing I have here is Grim and Bound Fate tiers no longer stack.
Boo!
I knew you were gonna do that. So this is from Fate Singer, the Epic Destiny Fate Singer. It used to be that if you had a tier 1 Grim and Bound Fate, tier 2, and a tier 3, it would actually stack, so you could stack all three of them together. I'm kind of curious if this is as much of a change to. I mean, this has been true since the beginning of time for this thing. So, I'm sort of curious if this is a change that they're trying to fix something, or more that it was work that was being done as part of the Epic Destiny revamp.
I think it's probably work that's being done already, but it's fixing. I mean, it's not supposed to work that way. It's just not.
I mean, what was that, like an extra 20% damage?
Oh yeah, I mean, we use it all the time, but there's no question it was never intended to stack with different tiers of the same ability.
See previous discussion about length of time something is not working as intended.
Well, that said, so that's a little different though, because nobody. I mean, we complained, and I bemoaned the change, but it's different because you know that it's broken completely, and it's not supposed to work that way. Sure. So no one really complained when it got changed. It's just there goes 20% damage.
At the same time, you guys were trying to do R10 Dryad.
Exactly. It changed right before we completed it, I believe.
See, it just makes your Dryad R10 completion less cheesy.
Cheesy is a spectrum, I assume.
There you go. Anything else you guys want to mention about update 49, Perils of the Planar Eyes?
Good job, devs.
Yeah, I liked it. It's a good update to me.
So you guys want to do letter grades?
Off the top of my head, I'd say B+ and A- because it's there's no system changes. Well, there was bow changes. I don't know. It was good. I have no major complaints. I'll put it that way. No grade.
I think B plus A minus feels right. Nothing's.
I'm a tough grader. I'm gonna agree with both
Yeah.
of you on that one.
There's nothing here that I think like wows your socks off, but it was all really good.
Yeah, makes me excited for Horizon Walker and Epic Destinies and Saltmarsh and all that stuff.
Yeah, got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Well, thanks for listening. Appreciate these guys joining me today. We've got Epicsoul and Vooduspyce. Voodoo, you want to plug your stuff here?
Sure. I think for the first time since I've been on this show, I can now say you can visit my YouTube channel where you'll find over 1,000 DDO videos,
Ooh.
quest walkthroughs, raid guides, crafting tutorials, and much more on YouTube channel Vooduspyce. And you can find me live streaming on Twitch nearly every day on Twitch channel Vooduspyce.
Epic, anything you want to plug?
Not personally. Check out Dom. He just got wings on hardcore.
Yeah.
Man's awesome.
And dedicated and determined, disciplined. Yeah. It's a great accomplishment. It's also a lot of time, but I think I might see if I can pull him on the show to talk about. Hey, if you're the thing that's really cool about it, we were talking about new players a few minutes ago. There's something kind of fun there. It kind of highlights a little bit that new players can, like, he did that with a brand new character, and if you kind of have a basic understanding of how to go about doing that, wings are achievable for you, right? Like he did that in 3 months on hardcore without dying. So that's on live servers you can die and not lose your progress. So I feel like that's really cool that he did that, but it's also I think a little flag for newer players. Like, you can do this. It is achievable. So. Hey, if you'd like to support DDOCast, you can visit our website or you can find us on Patreon. You can also find show notes, past shows, and more on our website, DDOCast.com. You can also find me on social media at DDOCast on Twitter. If you'd like to join the discussion, if you have a comment or you want to ask us a question, you can leave a comment anywhere that you find the video, or you can email us at DDOCast@gmail.com. Really do enjoy getting that stuff from players. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather the buffs.